Howdy guys. Right, I have a second project for my poor little ducky. So my one-legged lame duck, what he needs is a cat fight. Stop eating her. Right, where was I? Okay, so he needs a shelter. He lives in the backyard. I've just got him in a little coopy cage that I just pop him in at night. He needs more space and just some extra freedom. So I've had this thing, just rickety old little shelter thing that was lying around the paddock and blowing onto the electric fence every time the breeze gets any heavier than a sparrow's fart. So I'm going to rip this apart, pretty much sort of strip it down. I'm going to cut it down in size and then rebuild it and make it into a shallower, sort of more squat shelter where the duck will actually enter and have open. This side here will be just fully open, and then it'll be enclosed around the other three sides and the roof. So yeah, alright, so first thing I've got to do is decant this from the trailer, I suppose. Oh well, got it off one way or another. Right, so as you can see, it's a bit of a sad mess. It's just a basic wooden frame with a bit of corrugated iron stuck to it. So first thing I'm going to do is just pull all this iron off. Then I'll fix all this up, cross brace it so it's nice and strong, and then I'm going to cut it down to half its height. This is the bottom. Of course, it's upside down at the moment, as you've probably guessed. Yeah, and I'll just be able to reuse most of this tin anyway, and yeah, pop it back together. Right, as you can see, the corrugated iron here is attached to the little frame by way of these flat-headed nails. So I'm going to be gently teasing them out with the help of a special tool called the Big Bastard Angle Grinder. Well, it's a little bastard angle grinder, but this thing is actually, it's really freaky. Let's have a look at it. This thing is one of the GMC grinders I picked up ages ago, just a cheap Chinese thing, but I tell you what, GMC doesn't actually exist anymore, which is a bit of a shame really, because they produced some utter crap. But things like this, I'm not going to turn it on because this thing has got so much torque it'll fling out of my hand. That is a surprisingly grunty little piece of gear, and it doesn't have particularly wide diameter grinding discs on it, but I tell you what, this thing will just keep on going forever and it'll grind through anything. It is so powerful. So yep, I'll be chipping away at this. Okay, so that's the sides off. As you can see, this frame is it's a bit dodgy. And I know you're thinking, like, what the heck are you doing just bothering to save that? Well, I mean, it's here. Why not? All I've got to do is take the iron off, cut it down, and put some new stuff on. A little bit of cross bracing. I'd have to do it anyway, but at least, you know, part of it's already done. And as I say, this thing was just lying around in the paddock, annoying the crud out of me for so long. So, kill two birds with one stone. Get rid of this little rickety shed and save me half the job of building a little shelter for my duck. So right, so I'll get this roof off and then we'll start cutting it down to size and bracing it up. There we have it. So looking at this and the state of some of these bits of nails and stuff on here, what I think I'm going to do is I'm actually going to literally just completely dismantle this, and then I will say cut these legs down to size, so they'll only be half the size they are, and then just reassemble it. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually cover the roof, the 3 sides, a short side, this long side, and that short side, and we're going to have the side just open. So I'll be raising that little crossbeam up, so where we cut it off here, same on that side, the actual piece has fallen off somewhere. Oh, there it is, down there. Keep these in place. Yeah, and I'll just cross brace it, just with some simple little wooden triangles in the corners. Nothing spectacular. That'll be more than enough to hold it in place, given that it's only going to be half the height, so there'll be plenty of strength. But yeah, I think I'll need to pull the old nails out. They're all coming loose and really badly loose in places, and I'll whack it all together with some new nails, maybe even a bit of wood glue if I'm feeling like breaking out a tube. Okay, better go on to it then. Okay, so I've dismantled most of that. I'm just going to leave these 2 top pieces on because they're actually reasonably well fixed. I will tighten those up a bit, but they look pretty good. These were actually the bottom, but they're now going to be the top, because what I'm going to do now is chop these down probably about half the height, because it's only a duck, it's only short, it's only got 1 leg, so it doesn't need much height. And now what you can see here is that these are 2 different heights, because of course there's a shed, it had a sloping roof, so the rain runs off the back. I'm going to actually cut these to the same length on one side, but I'm going to cut them shorter on this other side. So we're going to end up with a slope running in the other direction. So these are actually going to be the ends, and we're going to have the back coming out that direction. Okay, and it's going to be sitting lower, so the rain will again run off the back and not come off over the front and drip on my poor duck's head if he's got his head poking out or something silly like that, or whatever. Anyway, so that's the plan. So I've just got to measure it up and chuck a few cuts in, and then I can start putting it all back together again. I will need a couple of extra pieces of wood, because for the extra bracing I'm going to do. So I'll head up to the top shed and see if I can find some. Okay, so we're all marked out. I've got this leg here slightly longer than this one, so that'll be the front, and we're going to go front to back this way with a shorter leg here, and then I'll do the same with that one, make the same cuts. So again, as I say, she's all marked out with straight lines running through, so I can get a nice even cut. It's just going to be sitting on the ground, so it doesn't have to be micron perfect, but well, it's reasonably good. Yes, and as you can see, these are fairly hefty chunks of timber, so just using the normal circular saw, this handheld skill saw won't get enough depth on that, so I'm going to use this little beastie. And as long as I am careful with lining it up against those lines, we should be well enough and should have a good cut. So let's see if it works. And there we have it, nice, reasonably even pair. And what I'm going to have to do next is just tidy up. There's a few little jagged nails poking out. That's where I just ground the nails off to take the tin off. So I'll just quickly grab the grinder and tidy those up. And as you can see here, it's poking up. That's basically where the front of the shed was originally, and this piece here has just been angled just to make the slope of the iron. So I'll just trim that flat, and then all I'm going to do next for these is put a triangle piece of wood in here. So it's just going to come across. It's a nice triangle, and that will give it that will basically keep it square and hold it rigid. I mean, it's going to have turn over it already, so it's already going to be fairly rigid, but this just adds more strength to the frame. As a general rule, you always want to brace your any kind of framing, no matter what you're doing, whether it's a house or a shed or anything with 45-degree triangular bracing or struts or something like that. That just provides a phenomenal amount of rigidity. So yeah, everything. Triangles are the strongest. The triangle, right angle triangle, that's the strongest possible geometric shape you can get. That's why you always use a 45-degree angle. Alright, so I'll cut those out, grind this down, these little extra nails and bits, and yeah, pop those little bits of bracing wood in, and we should be done with this part. Then all we have to do is cut these beams to length, which will just sit along the top and the bottoms, and cool. Well, that's pretty much our frame done. It sounds easy, and it probably is. Okay, so you can see that I've cut out a nice triangular shaped piece of bracing wood, and I've just set that in there at the moment. And here's the other piece, the other side here. So those are just going to sit in there like that, and because these are perfect right angles here on the corner piece, that means that this is going to be perfectly square. This frame is going to be squared up beautifully. Now these are a little bit loose, need to be tightened up, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these sections in place first, and that will basically ensure that it's square, and then I'll tighten these up and draw these pieces of timber in and lock them back into place, and that'll be a nice rigid end piece. And then I'll repeat the same on the second one here. Okay, so this is what I'm going to use to affix these corner pieces. I'm going to put a little bit of liquid nails, just super strong wood glue on there. I've got a whole pile of these. It's a bit manky, isn't it? Whole pile of these nice, really long wood screws, and yeah, they're just sort of like brass type screws, but they should be perfectly fine because this is all going to be covered over by tin. I've got my helping cat. Hello, Belvy. Hey, buddy. And Trip for Young Players, I just noticed I've got the square bit on that, so I'll better change the drill bit. Come here, you. Come on, buddy. Go down for a second. There you are. Pull yourself down. And got myself a two cordless drills. I'm not showing off here. This is just a something that that you might find interesting, is that I wanted to get 2 more batteries for my my cordless tools, and it turns out it's, when I was looking for them, the hardware store had this this sale on, and you got the cordless drill, 2 batteries, and the charger for the same, or for less than it would have cost to actually buy 2 batteries straight out. So effectively I got this for free for the money I was actually going to spend anyway. So bit of a bonus there. So yeah, as my point being, keep an eye out for bargains. It's really handy to have a second one, because you've got your drill bit in one and you've got your screwdriver bit in the other, or your tech screw bit. When you're doing a lot of drilling and screwing and that, it's just it just helps a lot. Just don't have to be changing it every single time. Real pain. Anyway, so keep an eye out for bargains. All right, okay, I'm gonna hook these, screw these up, and we'll see how it looks. And there we go. Beautifully square, braced, solid as a rock. So that is that's a really nice pair of end pieces for our shed, or a little shelter. There's only one other thing I was just going to mention. You see down here, okay, where I've popped the screws in, what I always tend to do, I can see it from here a bit easier, is always drill them in at right angles to the triangle piece. So it comes into this wood on an angle, but that's why you want really long screws. But what that tends to do is it gives it a good solid purchase on these, because bear in mind that this is a very thin piece of wood. Okay, so if you actually go in and on an angle like that, you're actually sort of cutting obliquely, and you're putting some strain on the grain of the wood quite often, and you run the risk of splitting it. So if you're coming across this way, in this particular case the grain's going that way, you just got to run in with the grain, or if it was going that direction, you're just pushing against it, but you're pushing at right angles. So generally speaking, when you've got your piece of wood, your grain's either going to be going that way or that way. That's just the way it's milled, and generally the way you'll end up cutting these pieces. So I always put, again, drill a hole, a guide hole again in the triangular cross piece. So there's no strain on the timber with the screw forcing its way through. So it's just a very nice. So I use a drill bit just the size of the shaft, of the screw, so the actual threaded part will actually still bite into this wood, but it'll be a much more gentle bite than actually trying to force a whole shaft as well as the spirals through. And then it just bites into here, much thicker piece. It's usually what you're actually screwing into. Right, you concur, Belvy? Of course he does. He's my apprentice. Yeah, good boy. Okay, so we've got those done now. All we have to do next is join it together with a few little cross pieces so we can actually make ourselves a box. Okay, so we've got the frame just sort of standing up there, and I've just placed the boards along the top. My other helpers, just to get an idea of what it's going to look like. I chose this particular width because that was how wide these pieces of wood were. Very scientific way of doing it. As you can see, we've got, should be able to see, we've got our slight bit of a slope there, which is cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to tack these on just with a single screw, and then I'm going to get some more of these triangular sort of braces and start putting them into these spots in here, down in there, and all these different corners. Actually, to be quite honest, I probably don't need it on this one. Just these 1, 2, 3, 4 corners here, and that will give us that lateral rigidity and square everything up, which is one of the most important things. Alright, so better cut out a couple more of those. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, so I need 3 more. And I'm just doing that on the just on the miter saw. Just set it to 45 degrees and do a couple of cuts, and we're away. There's no particular reason for it being this size. I mean, this is probably a good size for it. It just happened to be the size that came out of that. Oh, see my finger there? Yep, that piece of timber there. A few offcuts of those floating around, so that's what we got. Okay, I'll cut 3 more out and start tacking these up. Alright, so here's a slab of wood on the on the saw here. So I've got this button up against the end here. As you can see, probably see that it's not totally square, this cut here. So I'm just going to, there we go, that's about right. So I'm going to square that off first, and then I'm just going to do a 45-degree cut across here, and then do another straight cut across here, which then give me 2 triangles, and then there'll be another 45-degree cut across here. I should just miss that knot with a bit of luck, and that will give me my third, because I've already got one out there, which makes 4, and that's all I'm going to need for this little exercise. I think I'll put the phone down for this. I probably want to keep my hands where I can actually use them. All right. Oh yes, I forgot this is what I did last time. So I got a nice great big triangle out. It's way too big for my purposes, so all I'm going to do here is just chop it in half, and we end up with 2 nice smaller triangles. Yeah, that was me. Yeah, and those will be ready to use straight out. So I will get 4 pieces out of this. Alright, so we're all done. We've got 4 nice triangular bracing pieces. You'll probably figured out that I've been cutting this inside my shed, which is not ideal. As you can see, there's sawdust and crap getting everywhere. This is only just a temporary measure, only because it's such a pain to take outside every time I want to use it. But I've actually got another section of the shed. So this is a 3-bay shed. The other one of the far bays is going to be set up for all my cutting and woodworking and lathes, wood lathes and things like that. So we'll have a look at that in another video. But for now, I'm sort of stuck with this, and for the life of me, I can't find my dust extractor stuff. So it's going to stay covered in sawdust for a few more weeks yet. Yeah, I'll live with it. Okay, so I've tipped the frame onto its side, and careful note that I've tipped it onto the side that makes sure that these legs sticking out are actually supported by the existing bracing that we've already put into place. So that makes sure that if we did it the other way around, these wouldn't be supported. Like if this part was on the ground, you'd have this flopping free and possibly tearing out some of the screws that we've got. Oh, that was clever. Glue all over me. Okay, so yep, so that basically goes in there. And I'll do the same for this side, and then I'll flip it over and we'll do the same on the bottom. Get all 4 pieces in. There you go, looking good. This thing is getting really solid now. There's only one more thing we want to do if we're going to make this perfect. Perfect as a bodge job could be. And that is to take care of this last piece here. Okay, so we need to do that. As you can see, that's not entirely straight, although, oh no, that's about right. So what we have is a bit of torque going on here. Now, this is seriously over-engineered, okay, for what it is. It's a little house for a one-legged duck. For now, who knows what we'll be able to use it for later. And ultimately, I'm going to build this. This thing's going to outlast me. I mean, it's just bodged up with bits of old timber lying around the place, but I tell you what, this thing will last 100 years. And it'll be absolutely strong. So yeah, so we put these last couple of braces in, and what we'll do is we're just going to get that twist right on it, and that will then lock it in. So then we're going to have everything braced in 3 axes. Okay, so there we've got the axis across over here, we've got this one coming here, and then we've got the one coming down, across, and there. Alright, so there'll be absolutely no movement whatsoever in this thing. Alright, so 3 more little corner triangles to cut out. And there we go, all braced up. Now you will notice, of course, that I've actually got these sitting along the top here, these last ones that I put in, as opposed to sitting in here where technically it really should go. That means there's going to be some potential shear stress on these, but it's actually going to be very, very minor in reality. And if I was going to put them in here, I would have to actually notch out either on here or notch this out, and that was just getting beyond my willingness to over-engineer. There are limits. This is perfectly fine. Okay, so framing is nearly done. One more things to do is down on the legs here. I want to put a just a bottom bar beam across here, just in the center, and we're on there. So that's the front, so that will be open. There won't be one there, but there'll also be one here and across here, so across these 3 sides, and that will just help just make sure that the legs don't move out of true and put any unnecessary strain on the on these things. So we'll yeah, just measure and cut those, and then all we have to do is sheet it off. Okay, this time I have chickens to help me. Right, so I'm putting these the first of these cross beams across and on the bottom. So one thing I just wanted to mention was that, as I say, I'm putting it across the inside here because I wanted a nice sort of flush back, so I can actually just sheet the iron on really tidily. But the problem is trying to get screws or something through here without doing massively long bolts or coach screws or something ridiculous. So to do this, I've just cut out because this one's about twice the height of this thing, so I was able to cut out just a little block, as you can see I'll put on here, which this will just sit into place, and then I'm just going to screw this down onto this block, and I'll probably put one in diagonally through here just for good measure. Again, triangle, strong structure. Yeah, so I mean, if this was a shorter piece that was the same length as same thickness as this, I'll just be able to run a piece underneath possibly and do the same thing. So yeah, anyway, so this is going to work well, so I will do the same to the other 2 sidewalls here. So this is the back. Okay, onto it. There we have it. Frame is completed. So we have our entrance and sides in the back. Everything's all nice and braced, strong like you wouldn't believe. Even with that little gap down there, it is rigid. So all I've got to do next is cut some corrugated iron and sheet it off. So here we've got our sheets of corrugated iron, which I took off the original shed. So what I'm going to do is, here it is over there, our new one. I'm going to cannibalize this, I think, because it's a much smaller little hut now, and I'm reckoning We can probably cut out a bit of the garbage. There's probably enough good sheets in here to cover that one off, and I'm sure we can hide the crimes. If anything that doesn't look or work quite well, it's got too many holes in it. It's amazing what a little bit of silicone roofing roofing silicone can do. So I suppose I will start sifting through this pile and see how far we get. So the first thing I'm going to do is put the sides on. Okay, where's my finger? Ah, there we are. Yep. So I'll do the three sides first, and then we'll do the roof after. So the roof is going to wrap around and over, so it has a nice sort of waterproof aspect to it. Okay, so I'm going to start with this sheet here, and I've put this onto its back, well, sorry, onto its side, and as you can see we've got our open front section here. So I'm going to lay the iron this way, and it's just, yeah, it's going to overhang a lot, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to sheet it around, and then I'll cut it off flush with a grinder. And to screw these things on, I've got these are great. They're just little sort of smaller type screws, self-drilling, but these are perfect for just sheeting these onto vertical surfaces. You'd use normal tech type screws, roofing screws, to put the actual top on, because they have the nice rubber seal as well. But for the sides, not so important, not for our purposes. So yep, this will do the trick. And of course your two drills, one to drill the hole, the other one to actually screw these in. Now yes, these can actually self-drill, but from experience it's a real sod, because you'll end up knocking them and taking pieces out of your fingers and all that sort of stuff once you've been doing a few dozen of these. So yeah, drill and screw, much easier. Okay, so I've tacked the first bit in. Oh, there's me. Hello, Shadow. So you can see I've got the first screw in there. Now it's important because you'll find there's a bit of a trap for young players later on. If you don't have this sheet following the vertical path to begin with, it's just going to cause you endless trouble. So you don't want to line this up, you know, with the bottom here. So this is the ground side. You want to actually make sure you line up with the vertical, because as you're wrapping around, you want them to be all matching. So what I'll be doing is screwing this sheet into place first, and across most of this, and then I'm going to get the cutting wheel on the grinder and then slice this off here, and again slice it off over here. I'll just draw a straight line across. Really easy with a grinder, only takes a few seconds, but use a cutting wheel, obviously thin cutting wheel, not a fat grinding wheel. Alright, so I'll get into that, finish that off, and then I'll just do the same thing, and then I'm going to get another sheet, and then I will, here we go, my shadow, then I'll overlap like two of these. So that means this manky piece here will be covered over, so it'll be two, and then it'll wrap around down to here. So we have a nice clean, nice smooth corner on this too. It looks better, and no jagged edges there. Good for everybody. Look, it's starting to take shape. It's on its side at the moment, obviously. So I've just used one sheet of iron so far, because the one sheet was enough to do two sections, because when I cut it off the first one, it was long enough to do the second. Oh yes, of course, the other thing, as I'm working with the corrugated iron here, is you might just be able to see on here, what I've just done is where I've cut the iron is I've sprayed it with some zinc galvanizing spray, and that'll just help stop any of these off-cut parts from rusting. I'll have to bang that down with the hammer later. So and yeah, there's a couple of grinder holes where I was taking their nails out before, but that'll be covered over by the next sheet, so I'm not worried about that. But again, just made sure that that was zinced over just to stop it from rusting. But all in all, it's looking pretty good. So I'd say we've got a fairly good chance of getting this all done with just one more sheet. So I'll see if I can find a nice one. Look at that. Sides are all on. Only thing left is the roof. So another sheet or two and we'll be done. Look at that. It's going to be good to get this job finished. It's been annoying me for a while, so it's nice to have a day so free to pot around and get this done. I mean, none of us is absolutely picture perfect. That's not the whole point. The idea is to just be able to knock up something that's functional, you know, well constructed, functional, and with a minimum of tools and effort. I mean, look, I've got the grinders and 2 cordless drills and all sorts of other weird and wonderful esoteric tools. I've been building these things up for decades, you know. I mean, this could be done with just with an ordinary everyday drill, a few basic sort of sets of screws and things like that, and okay, grinder's helpful for cutting this stuff. They're not expensive. It's a great tool to have around if you're going to be doing any kind of handyman type work. I mean, it's not only for, grinder's great for cutting sheet steel and stuff, but it's also great for doing things like sort of cutting out nails and things out of wood. If you can't get a nail out and you want to cut it flush, grinder will just just bury that nail. So cut it off and you can sort of gouge it a bit deeper. And there we have it. One completed duck hut, which is popular with the chickens too. Well, I'm going to call that a bit of a win. Hey buddy, it's Buddy Rooster, a couple of his girls. Yeah, I'm really pleased with that. It's going to help my little one-legged duck feel a lot more comfortable. Excellent. So there's just a couple of things to point out. So as you can see, there's a bit of an overhang there. You need that because when the rain hits the roof and slides off, you don't want it sliding down the inside of the back corrugated iron and wetting everything that's inside the hut. We've got the nice rollovers here. So this is a good way to do roofs. You just roll it over and then just screw it down. And what's the other thing? Here we go. Oh yeah, of course you've got a little bit of an overhang at the front here for the same reason. Just helps stop the any water. If the wood here, the framework is in front of the tin, of course water's going to hit the frame and then come along the inside. The other thing was these corners here. We always roll, I don't know if you can see that very well. You can see I've just used the pliers and just rolled that sharp point over. Okay, so that makes it a little less pointy. Just a little safety thing. Last thing you need is to be walking past it and slicing yourself open on a jagged edge. That's about it really. So, oh yeah, here's one other thing here. You'll see the corrugated iron here is, it's got the curve going upwards like this. Now you'd normally never do this. That should always be underneath. It just so happened that I don't know if you can see this here. It just so happened that doesn't matter which, just the way this piece was cut, because it was an off cut. But you'll see that on this edge here, where is it? There it is. You can see that the underside, the other one, is pointing upwards anyway. So it doesn't matter which way around I put this. One piece is always going to be pointed upwards. So normally you wouldn't have this. You would always have it so it rolls over and finishes sort of, you know, finishes over like that, overlaps and finishes that way, like this side here. Anyway, can't do much about that. I've got a huge amount of overlap here anyway, so it's not going to let water seep through or anything. Okay, so now I'm going to move into the backyard and put some hay in the bottom of it, and we'll see if Ducky likes it later on tonight. Well, there she is, in place, complete with inquisitive pup and unimpressed duck. You'd rather have a drink, wouldn't you? Eh? And another inquisitive puppy. Anyway, so yeah, when it comes night time, he'll be more than happy to settle down inside there. And some stage when I grab some paint, I will give that a nice coat of a nice green so it blends in. Right, I think I will declare this little rebuild done. See you guys next time.